Hello and welcome to another episode of the Scouting Report. Here with me today is Chris Hall to talk about table-topping West Bromwich Albion. You okay, Chris?
Yeah. Well, as I said to you when we joined up a few moments ago, if I can't be okay talking about the Albion at the moment, then I'll never be okay talking about the Albion.
Chris is one of the first people I followed when I joined Twitter. It's really great podcast, Albion Analytics. That's right, isn't it?
Albion Analysis.
Albion Analysis.
It does get muddled up sometimes, yeah, because Pete, who co-presents with me, is WBA Analytics, but the podcast is Albion Analysis.
Long-term viewers will not be surprised to know that I like to dip in and out of a statistical analysis show. But yes, if you want to give Chris a follow, where can we find you and the pod on Twitter, etc.?
I am at CJ Hall 83, and then the pod is at Albion Analysis, and you'll find Albion Analysis wherever you get your pods, Spotify, Apple, all the usual places. We don't do a preview pod, so don't go hunting for any preview material around Argyle, but whatever the result, there'll be a post game pod. So if you want to hear our perspective on the game, feel free. We do try and be fairly measured. We're obviously Baggies fans, but we don't try and be too partisan with it and not too biased.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the best championship podcasts I've found, worth dipping in and out of, even when they're not playing Argyle. So yeah, definitely worth your interest. But right, let's get into it. As I always say to our guests, I can only apologise for wasting 30 seconds of your life.
No, I just want to know how much you paid Trey Parker and Matt Stone for that intro, to be honest with you. Thought it was going to go into Team America for a minute.
Maybe the throwing up meme would be.
Yeah.
So, like I say, top of the table after a very comfortable, was it 3-0 win in the end? You're welcome, by the way, for the humiliation of Dan Ballard on the weekend.
Oh yeah, I mean, thank you very much. Frankly, I cannot stand the man. I actually had an Albion fan tell me to get over it on Twitter. I just FYI, I have no intention of getting over it. I'm going to hate Dan Ballard until he either A, retires, or B, far more inevitably, we sign him and I have to do a total 180 on it.
Yeah, well, that's the type of pettiness I can get behind. I think that's the fuel for all decent football fandom. Lots changed for you over the summer. You had a good season last season. Perhaps a squad which didn't have the depth, maybe retired by the end. But Corberan, I think, is acknowledged as the best, if not in the top two managers in the division. I think Mike Robbins gets a lot of praise too, but I think Corberan showing this season that he's just a cut above the average in this division. Very not lucky to be keeping. You're fortunate in the sense that it's good to keep him. Not that he was potentially going to get poached, but it's definitely good to have him there. But most importantly, a new owner. They looked like there were some quite drastic financial straits on the horizon for Albion last season. New owner came in, and I think maybe someone from the outside were expecting Mr. Patel to throw some money around. It hasn't been quite that way, has it, in the summer?
Well, it can't be. It can't be because I mean, just to sort of like an explanation for anybody who doesn't entirely understand the PSR rules. It doesn't matter if Shilan Patel has got all the money on God's green earth. He still can't spend it because owners are only allowed to sort of gift so much money into the club. Everything beyond that counts as a loss, and basically Albion are still only able to lose a certain amount over a 3-year period. So Shilan Patel could have more money than God, and it wouldn't make any difference. We still have to work within the financial constraints of the league, and obviously they've tightened up on dodgy little loopholes like selling your stadium to yourself and things like that, which obviously certain clubs, without naming any Derby, any names, sort of utilised in the past, but you can't do that. So Shilan Patel is wealthy. I don't think anybody makes any bones about that, but he's also a clever businessman. And he does, and where he's been able to invest, he has. He very quickly paid back a loan that was owed by the previous owner, Gauchon Lai, once, because he basically took on that debt from Lai and said, well, I'll try and get the money back from Lai, but I'll give the money back to the club effectively. So where he's been able to put money in, he has. But the EFL rules simply do not allow an owner to throw millions and millions at the club, unlike League One, that doesn't have any FFP, which is why Birmingham's owners can spend whatever they like, but we can't in the Championship, which is a little ludicrous, it has to be said.
Yeah, West Brom are still West Brom, no matter who owns them, and they've still got the books that they arrived with when the new owners came in. But
Precisely.
There's been mixed, both from within and from without the club, mixed sort of assessments of the transfer window. Probably more positive from Baggies fans. I think you're more au fait with what was needed, and obviously with the way the team plays. I know you've been quite positive from following your Twitter of what's happened. So over the summer, what was the mood like? What were the expectations amongst the fan base? And I can't possibly believe it's lower than expectation, but this is as expected or better.
No. I mean, I don't think after 5 games any of us expected us to be top. I think we've had an enormously positive transfer window. I think some of the stuff Sky in particular like to say about our transfer window is just so far wide of the mark, it's unbelievable. I mean, also, first of all, some of the stuff around we lost players, lose them, didn't misplace them. Like we chose to sell them. We had players entering into their 30s in Connor Townsend and Okay Koslu, both in the last year of their deal. Frankly, the fact that we managed to get as much money for those two as we did, given their age and their contract status, is phenomenal business. They're both very good players at this level, and nobody denies that. But to actually make money off them, and through PSR, both I think counted ultimately as a profit. Well, they did both count as a profit. And then Brandon Thomas Asante, again, in the final year of his contract, a good player at this level, but I don't think it ever completely convinced Albion fans. And to get the amount of money that we did from Coventry and actually somehow managed to generate a bidding war in the end between them and Hull was just really, really good business. I think everybody looked at it and went, in the end, I think the problem was those transfers all happened in about the same week. And the only thing we did in that week was bring in Devante Cole. And I think up to that point, all we'd done on top of that was bring in Hegum and Diakate. So the problem was the squad looked really, really thin at that point. And it was always going to be the case this summer that the outgoings had to happen before the incomings. And I think a lot of people were rather prematurely smashing down on the panic button because the squad was thin and there was players going out and nobody got particularly excited about Devante Cole. There wasn't anything particularly sexy coming through the door. But look, we had to be patient. We knew the business we wanted to do. We weren't going to just do business for the point of doing business. And we managed to end up getting the players that we wanted, and players of really good pedigree as well. Some from abroad, like Uros Racic, who's played for Valencia and clubs like that. But Mikey Johnston was obviously a massive one, bringing him back after, and you guys will remember him probably not so fondly for one of his many worldies that he scored last season. Mason Holgate was a very unexpected little surprise.
I hadn't even realised you'd signed him in the sort of like the melee of the end of the window sort of thing. So yeah,
and this is it. And I think in the end, when you look at our bench last weekend, it wasn't so much who was on it; it was who wasn't on it. Devante Cole couldn't make the bench. Callum Styles couldn't make the bench. Paddy McNair couldn't make the bench. These, and we've still got Daryl DK to come back as well. Let's not forget. I mean, I know that comes with the very much asterisks in the corner of he has picked up 3 major injuries, and every time he comes back, he gets another one. So at this point, unfortunately, you just can't count on Daryl DK to stay fit. I want nothing more than to see it happen, to see him stay fit for a prolonged period of time. But unfortunately, until it happens, you can't rely upon it. But, you look at the squad we've got now, the bench we had at the weekend, bringing off the bench people like Johnston, Dean Garner, Jed Wallace, Dobbin. This is, for a Botter, this is really, really strong.
Yeah, I mean, I said this. I mean, you might correct my earlier comments about maybe the depth paying for your promotion bid in the end. Maybe that wasn't what it was at all. But I certainly think
a bit of that. But it was also the age. We had the oldest average age starting 11 in the division last season, and I think by the way, the second oldest average age was Rotherham. So it kind of gives you a bit of an idea of where having a really old squad gets you. I just think there was a lot of players who had to play a lot of minutes at over 30 last season, and I just think it told in their legs in the end. I thought Connor Townsend had a pretty poor end to the season. I didn't think Okayu Koslu was quite himself towards the end of the season. I think there was a number of players who were just starting to drop off. Alex Mowat probably had to play more football than you would have wanted him to over the course of the season as well, especially a guy who's had some injury problems in the past. And Jed Wallace as well, another one who's sort of like hitting 30 and had to play a heck of a lot of football. We asked a lot of these players, and in the end, one of the big things that I didn't mention about our transfer window is we brought the average age of the squad down massively. A lot of our transfers have been, somewhere between 23 and 27 years old. Really good ages for players. So the average age of the squad has dropped massively as well.
Yeah, because like from the outside, I think sometimes with teams who are sort of like boing boing, to use the the old adage, sort of once a team comes down and they sort of start to, and they don't go back up, and you start to sort of rotate players, all of a sudden the aura goes. And I always feel like West Brom squad doesn't get the credit it deserves. Even from last season, there's a core of really good players there. Wallace, you've mentioned, and he can't even get in the team at the minute. But players like Furlong and Bartley, who are good professional. All of your squad, I would happily take at Argyle. They're good Championship players. But now you've brought in, like you say, like Wallace can't get in the team because you've got Fellows playing so well. You've just brought in Josh Madger, who I know some people didn't think was necessarily a natural goal scorer, but has hit the ground running five goals already. Hopefully, you'll tell me that that's not anything special that Corberan's doing with him, and it's just a hot streak, and it might end on the weekend.
I don't know. I mean, we obviously had Madger all of last season. It's just he was injured. He got which to your earlier point is why we hate Dan Ballard, because he went through the back of him inside half an hour in the game at Sunderland. It was an utterly cynical and disgusting challenge. And Ballard basically didn't apologise for it. But it thought it was an honest challenge, and it was so clear that he was just out to do the lad. And he put Madger out for a big chunk of the season. Whether he's doing anything, I just think he's too good for this level. Like he's a phenomenal player. And the daft thing is, he's not even playing as a 9. He's playing as a 10 at the moment, because the way we play, Grant and Fellows get really high. They're our most advanced players, and Madger actually drops back into the 10 and links the build up, and then he gets into the box when we get the ball wide, which makes him harder to pick up. And I mean, he's just in a really special run of form at the moment. But his sort of football brain is unbelievable. He's picking up great positions. His technical ability. There was one touch he did at Portsmouth, which was just absolutely filthy. Like, he's pulled the ball out of the sky. No, there's not many players in that division who could do what he did there. I mean, and he does that every week. He's just got that in his locker. He's got these finishes in him, and he shows a variety of finishes as well, which I found really interesting. Not the top 20 came out with came up with a brilliant stat, which I think was he's had I think it's 11 shots, and I think they've been 3 headers, 4 right foot, 4 left foot. So, I mean, how do you stop a guy who can do that? You know, it's brilliant. What he's doing is absolutely phenomenal. But he's just a fantastic player at this level. And I think because he went off to Bordeaux and was a little bit out of sight, out of mind, and maybe his couple of loan spells back in England at Fulham in the Premier League and Stoke. Who does succeed at Stoke? Certainly not Steven Schumacher, anyway. But it is. Let's be honest, it is a graveyard for managers and strikers. It's really. It's difficult to judge him, and I think, and then he had the injury hit season last season, and now you're getting to see what a fully fit Josh Maja with a pre-season behind him and total faith from his manager looks like, and it's really quite scary for this division, to be honest.
Yeah, thanks. So I'll put a pin in that. If I just come back to that quickly about sort of like the way you're going to play. But so now that we've sort of 5 games in, Leeds have lost a good number of players. They still look as leaky as they did last season? Burnley doing all right, overperforming their XG. Sheffield United look pretty decent. Do you think fans now are confident? You personally, how do you feel? What you're aiming for? Top 2? Happy with top 6 still? Or
no, it's hard to say. I'm not going to sit here and say anything other than automatic promotion is a failure, because that'd be ridiculous. But what I would,
Aaron loves to flip up a comment like that.
Yeah, I can imagine, which is why I'm not going to say it. What I would say is this is not the same division as last year. Last year, within 2 months, we were all fighting for 2 playoff places. Actually, the top 4 had gone. Like Leicester, Leeds, Ipswich, and Southampton had just raced off into the distance, and the best any of the rest of us could hope for was 5th. And frankly, we finished top of that league, which is an achievement in itself, because you look at the points tallies that that even Leeds and Southampton racked up. They get you promoted in most seasons. So matching that was impossible. I can't for the life of me see anybody doing that this season. I don't think there's a team that amasses the sort of points total that Leicester and Ipswich ended up getting promoted on. So I think the division is there for the taking. Are we one of the teams that are capable of taking it? Yeah, of course we are. Like, we're a very, very good team in this league. Are we capable of getting in the high 90s points total? No, I don't think we are. Over the course of the season, I think you need a Premier League squad to do that, and that's what. Or you just need some unbelievable momentum that Ipswich had. But I mean, let's be fair. What Leicester went up with last season wasn't a Championship squad. It was a Premier League squad. What we've got is a top Championship squad. And I think in this league this season, we are more than capable of amassing a points total that could get you promoted any other season than last season. Because I think last season was just a freak, and I think the rest of us were feeding off scraps at the end of it. So we're in the mix. We are in the mix. I don't see us. It would be the job of all jobs if we romp this division, like how Leicester should have done last season, how Burnley did a few seasons ago, how Fulham did when they had Mitrovic up front. If we were to absolutely romp the division, that's the job of all jobs, because with everything that he's gone through, with the turnover of players that we've had, with not being able to spend money really in any real way till right at the end of the window, just to be in the position that we're in is absolutely fantastic. So I'm really positive about us. I think I'd genuinely be disappointed if we finished outside the top 6, because we've got the best manager in the league, and we've now got a squad that is comparable to the quality of our manager. And I don't think we've had that before. You're right, we've had some good players over the last 18 months. But I don't think we had a squad that made sense. I don't think we had a squad that was balanced and that, as I say, that was comparable to the manager. I think what we now have is the best manager in the division. And whilst we don't have the best squad in the division, it's not far off. I think realistically, when you looked at how balanced our squad was last season, was it probably one of the top 6 squads in the league? Probably not, because there was areas of it that didn't make sense. Now it makes sense. And the only thing that possibly you could say we're maybe lacking is another like central forward option, because if Magic got injured, what do we do? But then that's where you kind of hope DK comes back and stays fit this time. So I think the squad makes sense. I think we should be in the mix for automatic. I'd be disappointed if we didn't make top 6. But it's, a lot of that's down to the manager, who's just unbelievable.
Yeah, he deserves all the flowers. So Argyle fans won't necessarily have got if all they've watched of Albion last season was our games, necessarily a good idea of how you play. The game at your place was a bit.
Well,
you
should have beat us. You should have beat us at our place.
It was a very weird 0-0. I think we'd had a couple of bad home losses, and it's sort of like we went there to park the bus, I think, and come away with a clean sheet, and didn't make the most of our opportunities. You had a strange day. I don't know if we just didn't play how you were expecting, and then
how that shot from Whittaker stayed out, I'll never know.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he got enough that season. To be fair, we'll leave that one off. But the game down at Home Park was one of the worst, probably a top 5 worst Argyle performances of all time. But you guys did exactly, to me, that was more typical of what you do. Let the team have the ball till you sort of cross the halfway line, and then at the right, when the trigger's right, pounce. One guy goes to the ball, the other guy cuts off the pass in lanes. We get the ball and away we go. Thank you very much.
And that was us away last season as well, being a second half team, which is what we did to you guys. Like, I mean, we went to Huddersfield. We're awful in the first half. Somehow we're only 1-0 down, and came out and blitzed them and scored 4 in the second. That was kind of what we did for a chunk of last season away from home. Was we were a real second half team.
So how has anything changed this season? Give us a sort of, what can we expect? Obviously, your place, obviously, you're free flowing, you're scoring, etc. But in terms of approach,
not at home. We've only scored once. We've only scored 1 in 2 games. So we're a bit free scoring. It's bizarre, because what held us back last season was the away form. We only won 5 games all season away from home. We've already won 3 this season. So and we've scored 8 goals away, which is just, it's madness. This is not West Bromwich Albion. We don't win away and we don't score goals away. It's been a bit of a different story at home. It's hard to really say what we are at home at the moment, because the 2 games were so contrasting. Leeds came to our place, and Corberan openly said after the game, he said that he'd watched their game against Portsmouth. Some reason we play teams after Portsmouth, I don't know, but he's seen the game against Portsmouth, and basically effectively said the only reason Portsmouth got away with a 3-3 draw was because they were lucky, and that Leeds, they gave up loads of chances to Leeds, and Leeds missed loads of chances. And he basically said he wasn't prepared to leave our game open to the fates, so he set up to stop Leeds's offensive weapons, and he did an unbelievable job. I think they managed 2 passes from open play into our penalty area in the entire 90 minutes. But it was, I mean, Sky showed it live and frankly didn't get their money's worth. It was a dour game, and it wasn't one for the neutral. And it was a 0-0, which maybe we could have nicked 1-0, but that was all it was ever going to be. Whereas Swansea, we did nick 1-0, but we battered them. And I don't know how on earth we only scored 1 in that game. But where Major in particular has been really, really good all season. He missed a host of chances, and then decides to not take the shot and set up the winner for Malumbi. So we were brilliant against Swansea. We were just a little bit profligate, which is kind of not what we've been this season.
Good for him to get them all out of his system in a win. Then
well, that's it. But that's kind of measure for you, even when he has a bad time in front of goal, he still plays this wonderful, intricate little bit of technical interplay and squares the ball and puts it on a plate for Malumbi to win the game. So that's what I mean about he's just Corberan actually said after the Portsmouth game, because he got asked about Maja's goals, and he said he's so much more than his goals. Like, what he brings to us is so much more. He's just been phenomenal so far this season. So I kind of hope what we saw against Swansea is the real Albion. Interestingly, we've been a bit more open away from home than we have been at home. I don't know whether that's just because teams come at us more away from home, and I don't know how you're going to set up against us, because obviously I haven't really seen you under this manager, because it was Foster last time, wasn't it?
We've been yeah. Let's not talk about that. It was we're currently playing like a 4-2-3-1, but it sort of changed shape against Sunderland, and I won't go into too much detail because I don't know if it was just a plan to cope with Rigg and Bellingham, or whether it's going to be, because we've been crying out for a long time that leaving 2 centre backs and the 2 midfielders we have available back and attacking with sort of like with 5 or 6, it just isn't good. We don't have the energy in the midfield. Now, we did play a decent 2 in with a dynamic 2 against Sunderland, but we also sort of got it sort of became like a 3-4-3 almost, with Ballymumba sort of coming up into the midfield and sort of Whittaker sort of finding, it was like a stagger. I mean, you could say at times it was like a 3-3-1-3 or something. It was a strange sort of trying to fit into the spaces, get people in the spaces, basically in the middle where we've been overrun. But we do like to sort of try and get at teams under Rooney. It's, we obviously not done it very well.
Well, that'll be interesting to see if he does that, because my only real experience of Wayne Rooney coming to the Hawthorns was as Derby manager, and he parked the absolute bus against us. They got a 0-0 the season they went down. Quite how is, well, Keller Roos was the reason why. He had an unbelievable day, but I mean, it was a proper 10 men behind the ball job. I'm not sure they had a shot. It was mad. So it'll be interesting to see how he approaches the game, because
he said before the Sunderland game that he thought Sunderland were there to be got at, and obviously a lot of people poo-pooed that. The goals were in and of themselves weren't fortunate. We had some pretty good chances, the equal of Sunderland in sort of XG and in number. He might not feel the same way against West Brom. He might not feel West Brom are there for the taking, that there aren't the holes, and so we may come and park the proverbial, like you suggested he did with Derby. So yeah, it's one that I wonder if it'll be a bit of a chess game. I'm not suggesting Rooney's yet at the levels of Corberan, but I wonder if they'll both be trying to predict what the other one's going to do and counter. Got a prediction?
Well, I think if you come and play against us, that does play into our hands a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, because I did a similar podcast for PO4 for the Portsmouth guys last week, and they said to me then, John Mousinho will not compromise. He will play his way, and I was like, said, well, good luck to him, but we're frightening on the transition. I mean, Tom Fellows has got to be the quickest player in the division. He's ridiculous, and Carlin Grant's no slouch on the other side as well. And the way we can turn the ball over, and unfortunately for them, they saw that inside 55 seconds because they didn't track a Tom Fellows run. Darnell Furlong can pass the ball just as well with his hands as he can with his feet, apparently, and we're in. So I'll be interested to see how Rooney approaches it. Is all I'm saying, because he has come to the Hawthorns and been very pragmatic before, but to be fair, that was a much worse Derby side than you have Plymouth side. That was a Derby side decimated because of their finances. You do have some good attacking weapons, so he might feel a bit more ambitious.
I've got nightmares of Josh Maja drifting into spaces between. I'm just hoping that Darko JB is fit to play alongside Adam Randall, because he might do a man marking job. He's very athletic, but if it's not Randall and JB in the midfield, I've got nightmares if we go and try and
Well,
boss
that's
it.
kind of the problem with Maja is man marking him, because, like I say, he drops into the 10 and then he returns to the 9. And what do you do? You know, do you have
Do you pass him on, or do you
yeah,
just go everywhere
exactly.
with him? Yeah.
Do you say to your DM when he comes into the 10, he's your man, and then you pass him back to the centre halves? Or do you literally say to the defensive midfielder, you need to take yourself out of the game here and follow him around the pitch, and then you'll end up with 3 centre halves when he goes when he goes up top. So
And lots
it's
of space for your wingers to cut inside onto, as you've just described, are in good form.
and Swift and Mowat to move the ball through
Yeah, Moat
midfield as
is,
well.
yeah, a great. I was thinking earlier about. I mean, we'll have to call it a day because we've been on for half an hour now. But like Moat and Swift, players who've been there now, had a season or two with the manager. It all seems to be sort of clicking into place well. He had a brilliant game, didn't he? Just
Oh,
gone.
Moe's incredible. Like Moe is probably the underrated player
I
of.
had him in my gaffer team all of last season. Whenever I'd bench him, he'd score or assist. But he's one of those players. He's always got something in his locker, but he can do anything, and he kind of almost sacrifices himself for the team as needed, and just he can do anything in the middle, in my opinion.
Oh, I love him. I love him. He was my player of the season last season. Like, and I know most people fell in love with what Kipre did, and that was understandable. So did I. But for me, I just watch Alex Moa, and I just think you are everything to this team. Like, he can. He can pass. He's dogged in the tackle. His ball recoveries are absolutely brilliant. I tell you what, as well, he falls over for a foul like nobody
Yeah,
else
he's
in the
got
division
nous,
as
hasn't
well.
he? Yeah,
Oh, he's
he's
so clever,
mm,
and he's got a shot in him when he gets into those areas, as he showed against Pompey.
mm.
Because that's, you talk about how we're going to play. One of the most interesting things about how we're going to play is that it will. It will sort of be very tactically fluid, but when we're picking the ball up from the back, it will be hard for you guys, because one of the big things that that teams have worked out a little bit against us, where you can cause us problems, is we want to play out from the back through from the goalkeeper, and if you press us well enough, you will create chances for yourself. We've given away a big chance against Stoke. We gave away a big chance against Portsmouth from getting pressed off the goalkeeper. But it does become more tricky, because this season, Moa and Swift drop into those deep positions. So you've got 2 very good players on the ball, picking it up from the goalkeeper, the centre halves, the fullbacks, and playing it out through midfield and getting us up the field. And I think one of the big things we did at half time against Portsmouth is we made sure that we got Swift on the ball a bit more in deeper areas, because I felt like Moa had got targeted a little bit in the first half, and Malumbi had a really difficult game in possession as well, and we kind of got a little bit picked off by Pompey for the 15 minutes after the goal. And to be honest, we were very lucky not to concede. So I think if you're good enough in your press, that's definitely an area where you can hurt us. It's probably where we've been caused the most pain so far this season, is getting
That's really
picked off.
interesting, because we against that's something that really likes to try and do, quite a high intense press, and it's so easy to play through. But Sunderland, it sort of saw some. We were able to do it and not be cut apart. I mean, I think in the first 4 games we conceded 90 shots, and I know there was the Wednesday game which was just horrible, and then we were 10 and then 9 men against QPR, so that skews the statistics a bit. It's a very small sample size, but against Sunderland, although we didn't do anything going forward in that first half, we did do well defensively, even though we were trying to press quite high. So it's almost like it could be one of those where, how brave are we? Do we want to? How much does Rooney back the players to go out and do that? Will it be successful? And will you guys, take it, play through us, and break away and get the goal? So it could be a really good match of styles. We could, in a sense, sort of have the answer to each other, but will the quality tell? Who's for Albion, or maybe we'll get something after. It'll be a Dower 0-0. We'll come and park the bus, and
As long as it's better than last year, because
you'll
that
nick
was
one with
awful.
Yeah, but I would snap your hand off for a 0-0. I think I've predicted a 2-0 to you in our little our prediction league. We've got a little forfeiture league going on for score predictions every calendar month, and we tot up the scores. What's your prediction, Chris?
Look, I've got to be confident at the moment, haven't I? You know, I mean, we're playing really well. I think 2-0 to us is a reasonable shout. I just always have a little bit of the same concern that if we do get picked off playing out from the back early doors and concede one, and the team then drops really deep, we're not quite as good playing in front of teams as we are if there's that space in behind. So I think we'll come at you from the off, and I think if we get the first goal, I do wonder whether it's a little bit of how many. But if for example you just get a Morgan Whittaker cut inside and thunderbolt into the far corner, I wouldn't want to see us have to try and pick apart an Argyle defence that just drops in and goes, "Come on, then, if you think you're hard enough." Because I'm not sure that's where we live and breathe, to be honest with you. So I think that first goal is massive. I think if we get it, I think you'll have to come out and you'll have to play, and I think we will probably have enough turning the ball over to probably expose you a bit with Tom Fellows and Carlin Grant in behind to maybe finish the game off. But I think if you manage to sort of keep us at bay early doors, and then, like I say, Whittaker curls one in or something like that, I think it could be a long, hard slog, and it could be a bit of an acca buster where, you know, maybe we nick an equaliser late on, or maybe even you hold out for the win. I think if you get the first goal, it might break a few people's accas.
Well, that's good to know. Chris, that's been absolutely brilliant. Really enjoyed that. Learned a lot. Thanks for joining me. And I'll be sure to tune in, as should all the viewers and listeners, tune in to Chris's analysis post-game. Thanks ever so much, mate. All the best after Saturday.
Same to you guys as well. Honestly, really great club. It's great to have you in the division. Your atmosphere's unbelievable at your place, and I don't mean this because I honestly don't say this on every pod I go on, but you're the kind of club that we want in this division, because you really add a lot. You're big catchment area and everything like that. So it's fantastic to see you back, and as long as a win on Saturday doesn't contribute towards it, long may it continue.
Thanks ever so much, mate. Cheers.
My pleasure.